Ready to start this meeting? All right, go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Tonight is your second budget workshop. We will be discussing your proprietary funds, which are your utilities primarily, as well as the sub-funds that support your utilities. So in front of you, you should have two documents. One of them is a copy of the PowerPoint, and then a second one is the draft of the current CIP for the water, wastewater, and electric departments. As always, I'll be going through the PowerPoint, but if you have any questions, please stop me as I go. Always want to have this be more of a discussion than me just droning on about utilities for 7 hours. So as I mentioned, we'll be discussing our proprietary funds tonight. The city maintains a variety of different proprietary funds. We break those up into two different types of proprietary funds based off of GASB requirements. Those are your enterprise funds, your electric, water, wastewater, mosquito control. Those are your funds that operate like a typical business. They use the same business type accounting that you would use in the private sector, and your charges for services are set to recoup the full cost of providing service. Second set is your internal service funds. Your internal service funds operate very similarly, the exception being that their primary customer is the city itself. So you maintain three different internal service funds. That's your utility administration department, which is where your utility director and support staff are housed, customer service, and then the vehicle replacement fund. So those funds charge all of their expenses back into the city itself. Some important budget assumptions and important factors that we took into account this year. As always, per the City Commission's direction and best industry practice, we establish our utility rates to generate revenues that are sufficient to maintain your operating expenses while continuing to make sure that we offer the lowest and most affordable rates that we possibly can. With that being said, we continue to have pressure on our budget, on our rates. We'll talk about a few of them. One of the big ones this year is a new permit requirement for our wastewater treatment plant. I know you guys are sick of us saying that, but it continues to be the truth. We continue to have to meet stricter and stricter requirements as we phase into the advanced wastewater treatment plant. This year is particularly with sludge hauling. CPI, again, continues to be an issue for us. Cost of doing business continues to increase every day. Depreciation expenses, primarily driven by developer contributions of assets given to the city, are outpacing what we can keep up with in terms of revenues. Last year, we had a conversation with the commission. The commission gave us direction to look at some options, so we have some options for you guys to consider tonight. Looking for some policy feedback. One of the issues that is putting additional pressure onto our budget, particularly in the water wastewater side, is our consumption growth is lower than what we typically see. So what that means is our customers, on average, are using less water than we've seen historically. That is kind of a double-edged sword. There is the plus side of the fact that we want our customers to use less water. We want to conserve water, not only from an environmental standpoint, but from a cost of business standpoint in the long run. You have a permit with the Suwannee River Water Management District that says you can only pump so many gallons per day. So we want to make sure we can stay underneath that permit as long as we can, so we don't have to renew that permit and then build another several $million-dollar well. On the other side of it, though, if your consumption is down, you're selling less water, you're generating less revenues. So it has positives and negatives. There are some departmental shifts, some reorganizations that have had some effects on the budget. And then one last thing is the city manager directed us earlier for all the department heads to go and have comprehensive reviews of their rates and their charges to ensure that we're fully capturing the cost of doing business and charging those costs to the customers who are charging them or causing those charges to occur. So there are lots of rate changes, not the actual utility rates, but the one-off charges, after hours calls, the cost of utility application, those sorts of things. So we've really taken a hard look to make sure that what we're charging covers those costs. So you'll see that a little bit in tonight's presentation, and then you'll see it a lot when we go to the general fund, that we've really realigned some of our fees and fines. So overall big picture, if you take nothing else away from tonight, here's the one page that has kind of the overarching theme. In electric, we are proposing a 2.5% rate increase in residential. In non-residential, we're proposing between a 2 and a 4% rate increase, depending on your customer class. That's based off of a cost of service study we had done earlier this year. I'll talk about that a little bit later. And we're proposing a decrease in your power cost adjustment based off of our FMPA wholesale power cost projected to be decreasing next year. We are proposing a 5% rate increase in water and in wastewater, and then we're also proposing a restructure of our water rate charges to institute a water availability charge, and I'll discuss that a little bit later. We're going to discuss depreciation, and then we have a few capital improvement projects that we're going to discuss. One item that I don't have a lot of...
Dallas, when we gonna get the numbers on these instead of percentages?
They're later in the slides.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah, this is just kind of a summary of what's in it. One thing I don't have any specific slides on tonight, because we're going to bring it back at a future workshop or future meeting to discuss, is long-term debt and development fees. As this commission knows, you charge development fees to recoup the cost of growth and expansion of your utilities. We did a development fee study about 4 years ago on your water and wastewater with a bunch of assumptions, primarily the wastewater treatment plant. At that time, we estimated that the wastewater treatment plant would cost $40 million. We're all aware that it does not cost $40 million. So our current development fees are based off of a $40 million plant. Again, we all know that's not accurate. So we're redoing the development fee study, and then a future workshop or a meeting will bring back those actual rates. We're also looking at, we're doing a study on electric development fees. Currently, the city does not charge any development fees on the electric system. And we have a number of projects coming down the line that will enhance your capacity in your electric system. The second feed is a great example of that. So we're looking at an impact fee on your electric system so that the customers who are moving to Newberry, who are causing us to have to invest in that new infrastructure to meet the demand, are paying their fair share, and it's not borne just by your current ratepayers. So again, once we have those studies back, we'll have more discussion on that.
Well,
Microphone.
impact fees for,
Microphone.
but I'm saying, every time we go through this, we get into impact fees, and here we go again. A new one this year. But what about Clay Electric being the sole provider of 90% of our power around here and us not getting it? Are we gonna charge an impact fee to a new people even though it's not our electric?
No, sir. For the
Would it be
electric, it'd
only
only be
for-
electric. Yeah, you have to be in our
Inner
electric
city,
territory.
in our stuff, okay. This is,
Okay, so moving into infrastructure, planning, and investments. Again, I'm not going to go into a lot of this very deep. Nothing in here is new to the commission. But as you're all aware, we have a lot of capital improvements going on. If you total up our capital improvements in the utility alone for next year, you're at $61 million, $36 million the year after that, and $15 million the year after that.
where's that at now?
It's on your CIP.
Yep.
On the very last page, we'll tell you the totals. So there's a lot going on. A lot of it is grant funded. As the manager talked about in our last workshop, that makes things very, very complicated. It's not only complicated for the project managers managing the project, it's complicated on the administrative side. Again, just to reiterate here, there's a lot going on. Newberry is reaching a new phase of its growth that we've never seen before. I mean, the amount of projects that we're doing are not typical of a city our size. $120 million of projects would be big for a much bigger city than us. So,
Mr. Chair, last workshop, there was a comment about wants versus needs. I want you to look down that slide. There's no splash park on that slide. Okay? There are water mains, there's water towers, right? I mean, this is the infrastructure needed to run a city. That's what, now the grants are helpful on the money side, but they're also a whole lot of work on the management side, right? But there are no wants here. People want to live in the city of Newberry. This is what it takes to provide them the services that they need. They need water, they need sewer, they need electricity. these are the capital projects that it takes to be able to provide those services. So just making sure we understand the difference there between wants and needs.
So first, I'm going to discuss some of the pressures that are on our budget, some of the things that are driving budget increases, or potentially some of the areas we can look at to maybe help reduce some of the budget pressure. The first one is water losses. So a water loss is the difference essentially between what we're pumping out of the ground in our water system and what we're selling. Everything we pump out of the ground is treated and available for sale. But if we don't actually sell it, if we don't get it to the meter for the customer, we're not making money on it. Water losses can occur for a variety of reasons. It's very normal for a utility to have water losses. You want to try and keep them in the 10% range, is my understanding. But they can happen for a variety of reasons. There's physical losses, so the pipes themselves leak. Parts of our pipes are very, very old. There's leaks we just don't know about. You're never going to catch all the leaks. There's meter losses and billing errors, meter tampering. We think that we're pretty good on that. We invested in a new AMI system just about 5 years ago, so all of our meters are relatively new. We do regular meter tests. We do billing checks. We get audited, those sorts of things. There's unauthorized use, which is theft. That is one that we would probably like to talk to the commission a little bit about. I'll talk about it a little bit later. And then there's authorized but unbilled use. Those are accounted for water losses. So that's things like firefighting. Firefighters show up, they don't set a meter to tell us how much water they're using before they put out your house fire. Water splash days, those sorts of things. But anything that's going through the water system that's not going through a meter is potential revenue that is lost to the utility. So on this slide, you can see the difference between what we've pumped and what we have sold over the last 15 or so years. The blue line is what we've pumped. The orange bar, I guess, the blue bar and the orange bar. The orange bar is what we've sold, and then the yellow line is the percent between the difference. So you can see there are some years that our water losses have spiked pretty high, particularly in 2018, 2019. And then they came down pretty dramatically and stayed lower after we implemented AMI. But they're continuing to increase, and it's something that we need to monitor. So what does it really mean? If you look at what our water losses could turn into in revenue, and taking the most conservative approach at our lowest tier of sales at just a third of the revenue, over the last 10 years, we have lost nearly $500,000 of potential revenue. Each year, the average is about $35,000 that we could be collecting in revenue. Obviously, we use AMI, we look at those sorts of things. One of the things that we would like to get commission feedback on is previously, when we had, what's the PC term, Jamie? Repurposed water, which is where a developer or a contractor just taps into our water system and uses the water without us knowing and without paying for it, which I would call theft. The direction has been not to contact law enforcement. Most utilities do prosecute for water theft. It is stealing from the utility. It is, in my mind, essentially no different than somebody walking into the customer service department and taking money out of our cash register. But that is a conversation we'd like to have with the commission to understand if the commission would support us prosecuting for water theft. I believe Rance caught some water theft just yesterday of a contractor who connected into our water system and put himself in a spigot and just was using water willy-nilly. It happens quite frequently. We have been operating under hey, please don't do that. That's not cool. But we would like to know if the commission would like us to pursue that or pursue
How do they
theft.
get into our system? How are they tapping into our main, or how are they putting a tap on without us not knowing? Is there not a meter already there, or how are they getting water? They had to have a supply line somewhere to be able to steal the
Fire
water.
hydrants.
Or did they cut our main, put their own stuff?
Fire hydrant?
Yeah, tap to a fire hydrant. Where I caught yesterday, yes, sir, they was tapping into a fire hydrant. They would fill up their bore machines and go from there. So they have their own little device that they have custom made.
So this is like a utility contractor, not like one of our building contractors.
Now we have,
Well, it can be both.
it can be both. We have, yeah, they have,
Hang on, what you caught was like a utility contractor, just comes to our town.
Yes, sir.
They got the tools and they can tap into our
Now, we have
fire
had them
hydrants.
also tap into the water mains. They do a wet tap up. They take water without it being metered.
That's serious.
Yes, sir.
Well, Mr. Chair,
That's serious when you do that.
when you look at, we're looking at a 5% rate increase this year. We wouldn't need that if we were capturing that 100,000 gallons. If you go back over the last 3 to 5 years, we've had to have rate increases every year. When we started looking at this, that's our rating. So what that means is that we are having to go up on every customer on the water charges. It's kind of like when the Walmart tells you that they would sell everything in Walmart for 20% less, but they have such shoplifting problems. That's kind of where we're at right now. We're losing 100,000 gallons on average a day is disappearing. That's 36 million gallons a year. Okay, we're talking about some pretty big money at that point. Definitely, even if a high percentage of that is in, it's leaks, it's splash days, it's all those kinds of things. We're still talking about the difference between the rate increase, right? So whether it's somebody saying, well, I had to water this sod, and and I just tapped into it, or it's somebody tapping into a hydrant, and I believe tapping into a hydrant is a felony. At that point, we are talking. This is something that is significant. I think we got to get a handle on this.
So I'm all about. I'm just in conversation, though we ain't voting on nothing, but for me, to you and to Rance and to the city manager, I'm all about that right there, that utility stealing our water is absolutely. If we can prove that we can save that money, we need to give that back to the customer.
Okay.
If we can prove $100,000 or $30,000 a year, we can knock 2% off the rate.
Yeah, well,
But I'm all about capturing the loss on the utility people. Or anywhere, really stealing it. Because if it's going to affect our entire city and our entire, every citizen is paying the compensation for them getting rich off us anyway. So, I'm ready, do it. I mean, that's direction to the city manager. For me, we're not voting on it, but I'm just saying, I think it's pretty loud and clear we ought to do that.
All right, Tom.
I got a question. Here I am thinking it was parks, right? Because there's spigots at parks. That's what I'm thinking.
something little.
I'm thinking parks,
Tells you there.
like spigots at like
all of our parks are metered. We pay for our water we use.
So
in our
then
parks.
that's my next question. Is there a way to meter our AMI or hydrants?
Yes, we have water meters for hydrant. We have hydrant meters. The correct way to do it is to come to customer service and apply for a hydrant meter, and we bill you for the water that you've used through the
When a
hydrant meter.
well man comes to town, wants to fill his truck up to go
Mike.
dig a well, he comes
Hey,
and all
Mark.
water.
Yeah, Mike.
I'm loud enough you can. I'm just saying that the well people do it. I've called down to utilities and people want to fill up a truck to dig a well, they pay for it.
Yep, we have a
Or
process for it.
Whatever,
absolutely.
there's a process.
And I'm sure Jamie can tell you just
I didn't know that was a thing.
several stories about different utility theft we've seen here. I will say it is very common in
Are they local
utilities to
developers?
prosecute for water theft. It is uncommon to not prosecute for
We
water
would
theft.
definitely do it on power.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, and Mr. Just for I don't ever remember that policy coming from the dais. Maybe I missed that meeting. Maybe I misunderstood. I think that was a different decision, but I don't believe the commission's never been given this information in this way and shown what the direct impact to the customer is, because every year we do have to go up. I mean, that's rising costs. I think we all understand that. But when you look at and thanks to AMI, we're getting pretty good at what we're losing. Now we know the full impact of this issue going on. To Commissioner Clark's point, we'd be looking at 1% increases are staying flat if we had this under control.
Are we good?
So the next item that's obviously putting pressure on your budget is inflation. At the last workshop, the commission or one of the commissioners asked for some real examples from what we've seen, not just kind of the generic inflationary prices. So just off the top of our heads, we pick some items that we know have been increased or we spend a lot of money on. So I've got some examples here. So you can see that we're 72% increase, 90% increase, 98% increase. And some of these may not seem numerically big, but when you're talking about ordering hundreds of these things. For example, PVC pipe went 135% up, which was only $7, but we order thousands and thousands of feet of PVC pipe every year. So they all add up. All of it adds up together. Chlorine's another great example. We buy hundreds of thousands of gallons of chlorine every year. So when it nearly doubles in price, there's a big impact on your budget. And as I mentioned, they're all compounding on each other. So not only are these costing more money, all of the other things are costing more as well. So these are just a couple of examples. Happy to discuss any of them if the commission has any questions, but you can just see some of the things that we're constantly buying and the price increases that we're facing.
Mr. Chair, I promise I'm not going to interject all night, but I get real tired. I hear it all the time. Government going up, government going up, government doesn't make anything on that slide. Everything on that slide is made by the private sector, and we buy from the private sector. So when the price of government goes up, that is the private sector raising prices, and government has to absorb the cost of the private sector raising all of their prices. So I hear it all the time. Well, if I had built City Hall, I'd done it 30% cheaper. Wonderful. We have a public and transparent bidding process. I really hope that all the people that sat at a round table and said, I could have done it for 5 minutes. I hope next time we build something, I hope they bid. I hope they put on paper exactly what they would do and how much they would charge. And I hope they can do it for 30% less, because I would love to save the taxpayers 30% instead of hearing after the fact. All of our paperwork is transparent. Everything everybody gets paid, all out there. When we buy that, it's right out there for everybody to see. Everybody else is paying for the same stuff. It's private sector, and government is having to absorb the same price. That's my last interjection for at least 30 seconds.
And I'll say that some of these prices are because we are the government and they get us, and we know that. Did they think they closed the Jonesville water stuff because of pricing, or was that something that went longevity? Did we ever order from those? With the Water Sun State? Because they did the city-type utility.
They were bought by Ferguson, we bought from Ferguson.
Oh, they were?
Big conglomerate.
There you go.
It can't last forever. All right. Carry on.
Last item on this slide, I alluded to it a little bit earlier. And this one is the government's fault, is the permit requirements put onto us by FDEP and the Swanee River Water Management District. As I mentioned, as we step into our advanced wastewater treatment plant, our permit requirements are becoming more and more stringent. As the commission remembers, maybe a year or two ago, we had to change the way we do our sludge hauling. We can no longer land apply all of our sludge. We had to start hauling it off, which is expensive. It's a couple $1,000s a week we're paying for having our sludge hauled off. Well, now the next phase of the permit is taking effect, and so now we can no longer land apply any of the sludge. We have to haul all of it off, which is effectively doubling what we're paying for in sludge hauling. So our current sludge hauling contract, off the top of my head, is $65,000, $70,000. So it's being doubled. So that's another $65,000, $70,000 that off the bat we're going to have to budget for next year. So now part of it is, once Life Soils opens up, that partnership will help reduce that, because we're going to haul
Okay,
it
I was
from
thinking that.
one part of our park to the next part. And then when the wastewater treatment plant comes online, it'll be substantially less, but unfortunately it will be replaced with the increased cost of the advanced wastewater treatment plant.
Where did it go to?
Good Lord.
Just for information.
Hear it already.
Ocala.
Hear it already.
Oh, man. And it's empty in here.
I have good news somewhere in this PowerPoint. I don't know where it is, but I'll find it and I'll get it for you guys. All right, depreciation. As we discussed with the commission last year, the commission has a very good policy, a very strong policy, that we should fund our depreciation at 100%. So we're putting money away for the future. It's a very noble policy. A lot of utilities wish they could do it. However, I think we're reaching the point where we also are no longer going to be able to keep up with our depreciation costs. As you can see on the slide, our depreciation is growing pretty exponentially, primarily driven by the new development in town. So when a development comes to town, they invest in the infrastructure and they build a new electric system for their subdivision, or water, wastewater system. They pay for those assets to be put in the ground, and then they turn them over to the city and they become our assets. Once they become our assets, we have to begin depreciating for them. because eventually it is going to be the city's responsibility to maintain and replace those assets as they age. But that puts a big strain on the city, especially if you look at it from a timing perspective. So I'm just going to make this up, but a neighborhood comes in, they put in a water system that will serve 500 houses. They turn it over to the city. We may not have a single customer connected to that system, but we're now having to depreciate it because that asset has become the city's. You know, Tanglewood, for example, has a water system that they've put in. They're going to turn that over to the city, but there's 5 customers out in Tanglewood right now. So until that builds out, we're not collecting revenue from those customers to pay for that depreciation, but I'm still having to budget for it and put the money aside without the revenue offset. So, I mean, it does catch up eventually. The second issue that is coming down is we're building a wastewater treatment plant. That wastewater treatment plant has a total cost of $83 million. Using just a very simple depreciation method, if I take that $83 million and I depreciate it over over 30 years, I will be required to depreciate it at $2.8 million a year. Your current wastewater budget entirely is $2.3 million. So there is no, well, I won't say there is no way, there is a way. It's probably not a very popular way, but to maintain your current policy of fully funding depreciation once the wastewater treatment plant comes online would require a 134% rate increase. So again, it's a very good policy. It's great to aim for. Most utilities do not fully depreciate or fund depreciation at all. In fact, I'm not aware of a single other utility that does it. I believe Mr. Jones may know of 1 or 2 that he's seen that, nope, doesn't. Mr. Jones doesn't even know of any other utilities that do it.
Let me say something real quick on the depreciation.
Microphone.
Damn.
Just leave it.
Mark, just come down here with me.
Well, when this subdivision comes online, and this is probably a Jamie or anybody else chime in, and so he's done with it, we start depreciating it. Why do we take it? Why don't we take it in 10, 50 houses or phase 1?
The stages.
In stages, instead of taking it all to worry about depreciating the whole thing at once.
So unfortunately, you have to take the whole phase. So just for an example, you built phase 1 of X subdivision is 100 units. And in that, he's put in $1.5 million worth of water mains that loop with fire hydrants, fire protection, whatnot. Once they clear that, the EP clears that, and it can be placed into service, he has to turn that whole thing over to us as the permit holder. It's not like I can take 1 house, 2 houses, 3.
I'm talking in phases. Is that a state law? You can do it in phases? Is that what we do?
We're doing it in phases.
So even the phases, though, take a year or 2 to build out, and we're
Yes,
still
sir.
hung with the,
It's nothing for a single phase, 100, 150 units to be anywhere from $1 million to $2 million worth of infrastructure just on water alone, or on wastewater alone, or on electric alone, or the street improvements and stormwater improvements.
so the phases is the way we're doing it. We're
That's
not.
correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
So there really is no way around that then?
No,
What
sir,
you're
there
saying,
is
we
not.
ain't got no
And I was very
easy way to,
I was very pleased when I came to work for the city of Newberry after 20-something years of working with different utilities, when I found out that the commission's policy was that they fully funded depreciation. Everybody would love to do that. And it's easier to do when you're smaller and not taking as much infrastructure a year, and extremely easier to do when you're not building a $75, $80 million sewer plant at one clip. So I would encourage the commission to fund as much depreciation as they can, but there's a lot of utilities don't fund it at all. And then they're hung years later, they don't have any money to go towards the replacement of that asset. Yeah. That being said, on top of that, you're depreciating that asset at today's cost. So if Dallas started depreciating a water main, 8-inch water main 15, 20 years ago, that would be valued at $20 a foot. That same water main at today's dollars is $60 a foot. By the time it reaches the end of its 30-year life cycle, the cost then is most likely going to be $100, $120 a foot. So you're already kind of behind the curve anyway. So you fund as much depreciation as you reasonably, feasibly can, but you still have to operate. It doesn't matter if you depreciated everything, if you burnt all your operating costs in depreciation.
So we discussed this last year with the commission, and the commission said, well, staff, go look at some things that we can do about it. So we've looked at some options, particularly around the wastewater treatment plant. So what we've determined is a potential option is going through the wastewater treatment plant and looking at all the parts and pieces that make up the plant. So what we've done is gone through all the parts and pieces and picked the items out that really probably need to have a funding mechanism for replacement. Now, off the top of my head, I don't know how much it is, but there's millions of dollars in the wastewater treatment plant that's just earthwork. Well, I don't need to replace earthwork when the treatment plant needs to be replaced, but we do need to have a funding source for process control and equipment and pieces of the actual treatment plant. So we went through all the statement of values from our contractor, and Jamie and I worked to pull out the items that do have a high likelihood of failing in the next 20 or 30 years that are going to need to be replaced, and we should have a funding mechanism to replace. So we went through all those, assigned them life cycles, and then depreciated those. So if you take all those and just depreciate those, you're at $1.4 million in depreciation, which is still a very big number to add to our depreciation expense. So that would still require a 70% rate increase if we just funded the depreciation on those items that we think are going to need to be replaced in 20 or 30 years. Now, this doesn't consider any grant funding. It doesn't consider the funding from Archer. It doesn't consider any other funding. This is just the true cost, and that's this commission decision. We'll talk about it on the next slide about whether you want us to include grants or not. The most conservative, fiscally prudent would be not to include grants because you're not sure whether or not you're going to get grants in 30 years. But again, if we add these assets into our depreciation schedule, into our rate model, you're going to have to raise your rates by 70% to fund it. Now, one thing is the wastewater treatment plant's not going to come online for 3 years, so I don't have to start booking depreciation until the wastewater treatment plant comes online. So we do have a few years to kind of figure this out and see what the commission wants to do. And then one last note, I know you guys all study our financial statements intensely. So no matter what the commission votes to do in terms of funding depreciation, I'm still gonna have to book depreciation in our financial statements at 100%. It's always gonna show 100% as an expense to the utility because it is an expense that is a true expense to our system. So our financial statements are always going to show 100%. It's whether or not we're banking that money and putting it aside for the future. So the 4 options that we came up with is 1, continue the city commission's policy of 100% funding depreciation in the water or in the wastewater system. That would be a $3.3 million a year we would be funding in depreciation. As a reminder, your entire budget for what wastewater today is $2.3 million, so you'd be more than doubling your budget if you want to continue this policy. Option 2 is to adopt a modified approach, similar to what I was just talking about with the wastewater plant, and only fund depreciation for those items that we deem critical assets or assets that have a high likelihood of failure, where we want to make sure we have that reserve in place for replacement and renewal. If that's the option that the commission wants to take, does the commission want us to include grant funding? Do you want us to take into consideration Archer's piece, or do you want us to just do straight line funding without grants? So each of those have the options as it relates to the wastewater treatment plant next to them. The third option is end your policy of funding the depreciation at 100%. If that's your option, then what percent do you want us to fund? And then option 4 is we're open to suggestions. It's your policy. We'll do what you tell us to do. It could be any combination of the above, something else. But we'd love to get commission feedback on what you'd like to see us do.
So question, so if we don't budget for depreciation, what does that put us?
What do you mean, where does it put us?
If we don't budget for depreciation
At
over
zero.
time, it put us at
We
0.
don't do anything. If we don't put anything away, what happens next year?
If you don't put anything away, You use your depreciation currently to reinvest into your system. So your wastewater depreciation this year, off the top of my head, I want to say is 550,000, 590,000. Majority of that we are putting back into your system as renewal and replacement. So if you budgeted at zero, we could lower your rates, but we're also not going to be putting that money back into your system.
So how do we get the funding to put it back in the system?
Your only option is rates.
Well, you can go after grants and appropriations. And, I mean,
Your only guaranteed option is
the only
rates.
guaranteed option is rates. The only way that we're controlling it is through rates. And this policy is near and dear to my heart. I was a commissioner. I think I was the commissioner that argued we needed to start funding depreciation because we weren't planning for tomorrow for anything 15 years ago, 16 years ago. But it is tough. It's frustrating because we're constantly compared to other municipalities around us. I'll say we're always compared when we're not beating them. When we are beating them, right, we forget that part, right? But when we're not beating them, everybody says, well, Alachua is cheaper. Well, Alachua doesn't fund depreciation at all. So we are being the most fiscally responsible by funding depreciation at 100%. I will say to Dallas's last point, inflation has kind of made a mockery of us funding depreciation because everything is going up so much more anyway. I mean, we're putting $1,500 away for a transformer that now is close to $7,000. So we still don't have enough money to do it. But you're paying Peter or you're paying Paul. Sometime the bill is going to come due. But I think right now, the pressures that we are seeing are such that we've got to revisit this policy because it's just costing people too much. They're trying to make it through this year. They're not thinking about 20 years from now. That's our job to think about 20 years from now. But we also got to help our community get through next month.
So 2 points. One, part of the reason we get good rates, and I'm sure Commissioner Coleman can understand this, is because we are putting away depreciation. So we are building a reserve. We have excess cash, let me clarify, not excess cash, but we have cash available in our utility systems to pay those debt services. We have a good debt to income ratio because we're funding depreciation. So it does make you look better from a financial standpoint when you're going out for loans, going out for debt. Also helps with grants because we can show that we are doing everything we can from a budgetary standpoint to do these projects, but we still need grant help. Second point, I have totally forgotten, but it was really good. So talk amongst yourselves.
So I would.
Oh, I got it back. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Before I lose it again.
Jamie, did you have a point?
My second point is every utility is funding the construction. Well, not every utility. Most utilities are funding the renewal and replacement of their systems one way or another. What Newberry does is we aim for a depreciation number to fund our utilities and our repair and replacement, and then we use that money to go do the repairs and replacements. What a lot of utilities do is they say, what repair and replacement do we need to do? That's what we'll budget for this year, and that's what we stick to. They don't have the methodology of going through the depreciation exercise. So we take the money out of our rates, put it into depreciation, take it out of depreciation, put it in renewal and replacement. Theoretically, the money we're putting aside keeps us mostly new with inflation aside. Other utilities just take it straight out of rates and put it into capital improvements.
I think Jamie has something.
Just very briefly, just to give a little clarity to that. So when you see your capital improvement projects, and there'll be a column off to the side, and it talks about the funding source. So if it says renewal and replacement, it's coming out of depreciation, it's coming out of rates. If it's an expansion, enlargement, or enhancement, say you have an 8-inch pipe and you're putting in a new 12-inch pipe, a portion of that is your development fees. That is an expansion of your service, and that's development fee eligible. You cannot use development fees for something that is replacing like for like. It's basically a depreciated asset that you're not increasing.
Yeah, to Jamie's point. To Jamie's point, if you look on the bottom of, and this is the draft, it's still working, you'll notice the numbers don't actually all math here. But if you look on your CIP, for example, in electric, you can see how much we're going to fund out of debt, depreciation, rates. infrastructure sales surtax, and then the water wastewater use development fees. So you can see how much we're planning to use each year out of those different funding sources. So I'd love to get some feedback from the commission about which one of these is most attractive. None of this, we're not taking a vote tonight, but just to understand what direction staff should go look at. Would you like us to continue to fund depreciate at 100%? Maybe option 2, Commissioner Coleman saying option 3, option 4. If it is option 3, do you have a recommendation of what percent we should fund? Do you want staff to come back with a recommendation?
I
What
would
you
like
us to do?
staff, because you guys see the source that we need to fund. So doing it at 100%, we're already showing that we can't make that. So that's to me, that's an option that we can't even use. But if you guys have a reasonable percentage, then I'd love to see that number to kind of go off of.
I'm a 3. I'll tell you, we need to get through.
Microphone.
We need to get through till we get this inflation down. And
I'll do my
we
best.
have to give the consumers the benefit of the doubt here too. We've got money in the bank for some of this. I do want to depreciate maybe as we are, because that plant's 3 years out. So we ain't got to be worrying about these millions as long as we're keeping up with current, for me. But we got to worry about not getting too crazy here and up in rates for the consumers out here in the city. Because it don't take none of us long to go, you pay it, they pay it. Well, some of us, some do and some don't, because we live in different places. But water and sewer and electric is eating people up right now. So I'm definitely not into raising anything for this year. I don't know where that would set us. I think we can have another discussion, even if it's offline, one-on-one. But we ought to be, we need to look at something, if not, at least stay current and not start adding no more prices.
Yeah, and I
What
know,
percentage would you?
well, that's,
What percentage would you?
I'm not at a percentage. I say stay where we are for right now. I want to talk to the city manager and talk to the staff and this is not a
turn your
voting
mic
thing.
on.
This is not a voting thing, so we can have a discussion.
So it appears to me the consensus is for option 3 in the policy of funding at 100%, and staff will come back with our recommendation of what we should target.
Because I know we can't add grant funding in there, because that's.
With current year though, Dallas, I think we're kind of getting, I know what you're looking for and
Well, in the current year, we
current year-
we are saying that we're gonna depreciate 90% or 88, I can't.
90% in the water wastewater.
We were gonna decrease 10% and just fund depreciation at 90%. That's what gets us to the recommended 5%. If you guys opt for a blend of option 2 and 3, and you say, identify the critical stuff that we know is gonna go out, and let's fund that depreciation at 75%, that changes Dallas's numbers tremendously, right? So I agree. I think we can have some offline conversations. We can run some different metrics and show y'all some different options. But the 5% that was on the first summary slide already took in a 10% decrease in funding depreciation to get to 5%. Now, if we could capture that 100,000 gallons of water loss,
can I
And I got
when
one.
we
can
get
I
to-
hire on as a water police tomorrow?
Absolutely. When we get to the rate slides, I'll show you the difference between funding 100%, what that would do to our rates and where we.
So my question would be, let's say the whole property tax thing happens. How does that affect us?
It won't affect your utilities because your utilities are not funded by property taxes. They're fully funded by rates. The only potential impact it would have is if the commission decided to fill some of that gap in with transfers. You do have the authority to raise your rates and transfer money back into the general fund to offset it. But
Okay.
in and of itself, there's no direct impact to the utilities. Anything else on depreciation before we move on?
No, I think we got a consensus on that.
We've been depreciated enough.
Yeah.
All right, moving into proposed rate changes, and I actually have my slides backwards here, so I'm going to skip to this one first. To the commission's point, the manager's point, I want our residents to understand, the commission to understand that, we don't take rate increases lightly. We understand that they have an impact on our customers. We understand that it's not easy. So when the budgets come in, the budget submittals come in from the departments, we really, really hard scrutinized what they're requesting and what they need. Every line is gone through and questioned and has to be justified and proven that they need it. City manager sat through his first round of budget meetings this year, and I'm sure he could tell you that it was exciting. The amounts of questions and detail that we're going into to get department heads to prove to us what they're asking for. We also make sure that we understand that what those budget requests are having on our rates, like what the impact is going to be to fund the request from the departments. So in this year, just for example, in the water wastewater department, the budget that was submitted from the department, we cut by $250,000. We went through, we cut staff positions that were requested. There were 3 new staff positions requested. We haven't funded a single one of them. We reduced studies and professional services. We reduced the maintenance cost. We reduced contract services. We go through these budgets hard because we understand that there's going to be an impact to our residents and what that means. So I know the commission knows that we're not coming up here and just asking for the once that we're going through it, but I want to make sure everybody understands that these budgets are gone through. Rance had the joy of going through it the first time as a department head. I'm sure he could tell you that it was really fun. All the questions and information we require and the justifications we require. Right, Rance? You had a blast?
So much fun.
Yeah. So I just wanted to have put that out there that, we are doing our due diligence to the best of our ability before we're proposing rate increases. With that being said, let's talk about rate increases. This year, we had a cost of service study and a revenue sufficiency study done by FMPA. The goal of that study was to ensure that what we are charging our electric customers is fair and equitable amongst the customer classes. For example, a house that uses 1 kilowatt versus a business that's using 1,000 kilowatts have very different demands on our electric system. And so therefore they should pay different rates. The house should not be paying for the same level of service that a large business is paying for. So we wanted to make sure that our rate structure was fair and equitable across the system. And the good news was it generally is. Our rate structure is fairly well aligned with the cost of services, with a few slight changes here and there. And you'll see that when we go into the rate structure about why we proposed some of the rate adjustments we did. But generally, the response was your rate structure is good, maybe a few tweaks here and there. And like I said, you'll see that in your rate structure. So I can provide that full study to the commission if anybody's interested, but you'll see the results in our rate structures. So in the rate adjustment for electric, we are proposing a 2 to 4% increase in all customer classes. It's a 2.5% rate increase for residential, a 2% rate increase for small non-residential, smaller commercial, and then a 4% rate increase for the larger commercial, larger industrial customers. Again, that's based off the rate study we had done. It was showing that industrial was not necessarily paying the full cost of the demands it's putting on the system. So that's why the industrial is seeing a little bit higher of a rate increase this year. The average impact to a residential customer this year at a 2.5% increase is $3.69 a month. For a smaller commercial account, it'd be $6.51 per month using 2,500 kilowatt hours. Again, that's realigns our rate structure to be equitable against the demands that customers are putting on the system. And then it also helps fund us for our future capital needs and continues to put us in a strong financial place for when we need to go out and issue the debt that's going to be necessary to fund the second feed and some of these other projects that are coming online. This is the latest FMEA bill comparison. As you can see, we're right in the middle of the pack. We have fairly competitive rates. There's a lot of us kind of clustered together, so we're doing fairly well there. This graph shows you what proposed rate increases that I could find online from other cities and IOUs in the industry. We're towards the low end at a 2.5% rate increase. Alachua is right there with us. Green Cove Springs has a 12% rate increase this year. I don't know what they're doing, but we are.
Yeah, 12%.
Yes, sir.
Remember, none of these are funding their depreciation at 100%. So when we're doing these cost comparisons, nobody else is being as responsible as Newberry is being when they develop these rate structures.
I think when Ricky highlighted Green Co. a couple meetings ago, they raised their rates on.
They ain't even comparing
Not even close.
Their former finance director and I are not friends, but we talk to each other, and she has called me several times bemoaning some of their budget woes that they are facing. All right, so the budget itself, we are proposing a $7.8 million electric system budget. That is up from $7.4 million this year. That is primarily driven by the rate increases, but mostly driven by customer growth. This is the first full year you have a Publix online, some of the other commercial that's come into the city. On pace increase in personnel services. As I mentioned, there's no new staff. The rate increases there are your normal COLA, merits, health insurance increases, as well as the training through progression plan we have. So, we have apprentices and linemen who promote up through the system as they get more experience in training. So this budget allows for them to get those merit increases. Small increase in operating, $30,000 increase in depreciation. Your purchase power, as I mentioned, your purchase power price per megawatt hour is actually decreasing next year by about $5 a megawatt hour. So the increase you're seeing here is consumption. So we're selling more power than we are this year. And then you have your franchise fee, equivalent to what all of the utilities pay to the general fund. And then your net operating income, proposing about $150,000 of income this year. As a reminder, that income goes directly into your capital improvement program. It's not profit for the city. It's reinvested right into the capital program. Any questions on electric?
Sir.
All right, moving into water. One new thing that we are proposing for the commission's consideration this year is adopting a water availability charge. This is very similar in your electric system to your demand charges. Just like in the electric system, you have a variety of different sizes and uses of water in your water system. Larger customers require more service. They require bigger pipes and bigger pumps and those sorts of things to support them. Currently, the way our rate structure works is we charge Publix and, Bev's Burgers the same customer charge for their usage. They both pay $17.04 a month, whether you have a 3/4 inch meter or you have an 8-inch meter. You're paying $17 a month. So it's not common in larger utilities, Newberry getting to be a larger utility, to do it because that, again, is not equitable. A customer who has an 8-inch meter is requiring an 8-inch pipe and pumps that can fill 8 inches of water and all those demands on the system. So what we are proposing to the commission to do this year is to implement a water availability charge that would restructure how we're allocating those costs. It does not generate you any more revenue. It is just allocating those costs amongst your commercial customers. This is only commercial customers. It does not affect your residential customers. To more fairly charge them for the demands they're placing on the system. So the structure we came up with would actually provide a $2 a month decrease to your smallest non-residential customers, all the way up to $118 a month increase for your larger customers. Again, this is revenue neutral, so we're not generating more revenue on this. We're just dispersing those costs more fairly based off the demands to the system. It also helps keep us better in the market, because if you compare our rates currently to an Alachua or to a Gainesville, we look high on the smaller users because we're putting more into that customer charge. And we look low on the bigger customers because we're only charging them $17 a month when Gainesville and Alachua are charging them $130, $150 a month. So I'd love for your feedback on that. Happy to answer any questions.
It's a big increase.
What's the percentage that we got out there that truly is in the
6 inches.
3 to 6 inch?
I don't
can't
know off the
have
top of my
that
head,
many.
but it's like less than 10,
Yeah,
3 to 6
we can't
inch.
have many.
Yeah, they're primarily in the 3/4 inch, and then it drastically decreases as you go further down.
Because a lot of your small business, that 3/4 or 1 inch is the one ERU? 3/4.
90% all of you in the city.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, you have about 200 non-residential, and I can pull up the spreadsheet if you want the exact numbers. You have about 200 non-residential customers, and like 166 of them are 3/4 inch. So yeah, the customers that are using our 4-inch is like Publix, for example. But currently, Publix is paying the same customer charge as Capricious.
Yeah, no, I'm good with that. That's your big
Microphone.
places, so.
Do I have 3 head nods?
Well, you got one from me.
All right. So moving into rate proposals.
He raised his hand though, I saw it.
Raise my hand. Scratch my forehead.
So on your water rates, as we mentioned earlier, we're proposing a 5% increase for all classes. That is an average impact for residential customer of $2.01 per month at 5%. And those are corresponding increases throughout the system. The change on the non-residential, as you can see, is it was a $17 base fee, and now it is a variable fee based off of meter size. In your budget, we are proposing just shy of $1.9 million in revenue, up from $1.7 million last year. Again, primarily driven by growth, but also the rate increases. No increases in personnel services in terms of FTEs. That's, again, the same COLAs and merits and FRS and all those good things, as well as the progression through training that we have for our water operators. Depreciation, as the manager mentioned, we are proposing to fund at 90% this year. That 90% allows us to keep the rate increase at that 5%. If we wanted to fully fund depreciation as we have previously, that would require an 8.5% increase. Comments, questions on water? No. Okay. On the plus side, we are lower than the statewide average in terms of water.
There's green code in here, hold on.
I don't know, but I can find that out for you. The statewide average in 2024 was 46.32. Newberry's average, proposed average is 42.69. So we are below what the state average was 2 years ago. I'm hoping that by the end of this budget season, the 2026 studies have come out, so we can compare to the most accurate data. Compared to our peers, you can see on the chart here where we compare in terms of residential, non-residential, and irrigation. As you can tell, in residential, we are higher than Gainesville and Alachua. Again, Gainesville and Alachua don't fund depreciation at 100%. Non-residential actually came down a little bit this year because of that water availability realignment. Some of our customers will be seeing a rate decrease. And then irrigation, obviously the commission adopted a policy many years ago to help curb irrigation usage. So we do have conservation rates in place for irrigation. Anything on water before I move to wastewater?
No, sir.
In wastewater, we're proposing a 5% increase in wastewater rates for all customer classes. The average impact for a residential customer is $3.81. And again, that is 5% across the board in all classes. In the budget, we are showing a $2.3 million total operating budget, up from $2.1 million in the current year. All the same reasons as I've told you earlier. Again, personnel services, not a big increase. Again, it's just the COLA merits, all those normal things. Operating expenses is where we see that sludge hauling. As I mentioned, that's $70,000. So most of that increase is in that sludge hauling. So we're not doing a lot of other increases in your operations expenses there. Again, we're funding depreciation at 90% instead of the full 100%, with total operating expenses of $2.3 million, projecting an $803 loss in the wastewater system. And again, if the commission wanted to fully fund depreciation at 100%, that would be an 8.25% increase as opposed to the 90% increase. In terms of wastewater peer comparisons, we're in the noise with our peers, about $6 different on the residential side, and then really competitive on the non-residential side. One thing that did kind of dawn on me earlier today is when we were comparing ourselves to Alachua and a GRU, one thing that they both have that we don't have that would help offset our expenses is they have reclaimed water systems. They're selling their effluent from their treatment plants, and that is wastewater system revenue. We obviously don't have a reclaimed water system. So they do have another funding mechanism helping offset these costs. So I think that's important to know when we're comparing ourselves, that they do have additional revenue streams funding their utilities, and also they're not funding depreciation at 100%.
If a golf course were to come to Newberry, right, we could reach out and say, hey, we'll sell you reclaimed water, right? We don't have, I'm going to look at this more, but we don't really have a big business that would buy it from us anyway. But if we ever did, it's a pretty good revenue source.
Marlowe Farm builds an 18-hole golf course out there, we could put it that way.
Half Moon Pond gonna have a golf course soon.
So looking at the statewide average, we are higher than the statewide average. This is, again, from 2024, so that average is closer to where we are, but it's all the same factors we've been discussing. So, any questions, comments on wastewater before I move on? Moving into your smaller funds, development fees, we're projecting a slight increase based off of growth patterns from 1.3 million to 1.325 million. Vast majority of that's going into projects. The parts that are not are going to debt service. There's quite a big difference between what we're projecting in expenses for next year and this year, but most of those expenses that are in this year's budget, that $4.2 million, are going to be ongoing next year. So we'll be doing a budget transfer from last year's budget into this year to continue those projects. We are planning a reserve next year, and that's just to help replenish the costs that we've been spending. As you can see, we spent $3 million more, or we budgeted $3 million more this year on projects than we're collecting. That's coming out of your reserves. So we're budgeting for to rebuild some of those reserves next year in the next couple of years. Mosquito control, no rate increase on mosquito control for the 9th consecutive year, no rate increase. Nothing really to mention there to you. Utility administration, again, this is the department that captures the utility director and the assistant director and all the administrative staff. Slight reduction, that's mostly due to the realignment of some of the positions. So some positions got moved out of utility administration into the general fund. So slight decrease on the utility administration costs. Customer service.
Yeah, real quick.
Yes, sir.
Don't get too far. Hey, how many times, is there a log or this is for Rance or Jamie, or how many times do we spray mosquito spray in a year, in a summer? How often are we doing it? On call, weekly? Because I see a lot of things, and I probably ain't reading into everything.
So,
But do we go on when we just get calls?
yes, sir, once we get complaints, we do a landing count. And if the landing count actually warrants a spray, we will spray based off landing counts. On average, Jamie can correct me if I'm wrong, 2 to 3 times a year is what we spray for. How was that? Yeah, 2 to 3 times a year is what we spray for.
Like in areas, or you think we do the whole city in
Whole
3
city.
times in a year? Whole city?
What's a landing count? Do you go out there with your arms out and see how many land on you?
They do. That's why Bucky was eat up, didn't come to work the other day.
And that is state law that requires us to do that.
Wow. State law, here again. We ain't smart enough to go see if they're out there and,
Well, and you gotta be licensed to stand out there and do that.
And remember, not everybody that's in the 56 square miles of Newberry is eligible for mosquito screening, right? So if you live out, you don't pay for it because we don't we can't provide you that service, right? So you only pay for it if you're eligible to receive the service. So that's how we factor that in.
I should have put a peer comparison. Alachua is 10% higher than us. Their mosquito control fee is $1.10. So we're doing good. Customer service. This is your customer service operations. Slight increase. There, again, really nothing changed. A lot of that is just driven by we have more customers. It takes us more. Mostly it's postage. Our postage is really expensive because the postage keeps going up and we mail a lot of bills. So, I am projecting to make a $2 profit in your customer service department next year. You're all welcome. We'll reinvest that. So in conclusion, to summarize what we have talked about for the last hour, we are proposing a 2.5% increase in electric rates, a 2 to 4% increase in non-residential rates on electric. Again, that's based on that cost of service report to more equitably attribute your cost out. We should see a slight PCA decrease based off of our wholesale power costs from FMPA. We're proposing a rate increase of 5% across all rates in the water system, proposing a realignment and imposing that water availability charge. Water losses continues to be a big issue for us. And Commissioner Clark is going to go out there and be the water police starting tomorrow. Proposing a 5% increase in your wastewater rates across all customer classes. In depreciation, staff is going to go back and look at different policies and processes to come up with a metric to fund depreciation. We'll come back at a future meeting with that information. We have a capital improvement program. We're doing a lot of capital improvements. And we will come back at a future meeting to discuss potential increases in your development fees to pay for some of these increases in your capacity and some of the projects coming forward. Next steps in your budget process. We have 2 more workshops. You've already adopted your fire assessment cap. You've already adopted your millage rate cap. The next vote you will take is going to be at your second meeting in August. That will be to adopt the final fire assessment. And then, of course, you'll have your budget hearings in September at your first and second meetings. And then I am proposing that we have our next workshop, which will be on your governmental funds, 2 weeks from today on August 12th. Same time, same place.
So we have a meeting on the 28th, or that's August 28th?
I believe so.
To adopt the final.
That should be the regular. Oh, is it August 24th?
August 24th.
Yep, I'm sorry. August 24th it's the regular scheduled commission meeting. So yes, apologies for that.
I won't be in town, so.
And Mr. Chair, oh gosh, I forgot I did this. That concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any last questions.
All right. We got any questions from the dais?
No, I would like to, well, I'll keep this and call and discuss a couple of things just for question and answer and figure out what we got, if we can do anything.
Absolutely.
It's always worth the conversation.
It is your budget, so absolutely.
I think, Jamie, instead of using that cane, I think you ought to go get a hickory stick, and we're gonna call you Walking Small, and you're gonna bust them tanks open out there as you find them.
He said
Okay.
walking small. All right, we don't have anything else?
One more thing. I think, maybe, I know you don't want to talk about it, but, depreciation for this year, I mean, it's a yearly thing anyway. I don't know why we don't go ahead and just slash it 50%.
Mr. Chair, I think, because you guys have been pretty clear about that in the past.
Yeah,
But I have a pretty hard time bringing anything, 5% is tough. And my message to every department head was, don't sit down with me to go over the budget until you're at least at 5%. So if you're bringing in something that's a 12% increase, you're not ready to meet with me yet, right? You get it down to 5%. So this time, in order to do that in operating, we were talking about cutting people, right? And you guys know I've been giving you information about how many employees the cities around us have versus we have. So I took the 10% off of depreciation, but hearing the willingness to look at that, I think I'll go back with the finance director and we'll see what 85% looks like, 80% looks like, right? And so we have something that's more palatable, right? I think, again, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's gonna come due eventually. So I think there is a percentage that we should continue, but I hear what you're saying, you know, that we just got to get through the year.
Well, we meet every year. We meet every year. Will I be here? I don't know. But, I mean, this can change year to year. And the way that, as Mark says, is that the state controls? Well, the way the state's acting right now, I think depreciation is where that will be our safe hold here, honestly.
Mr. Chair, my only comment to that is we can absolutely look at reducing depreciation, but depreciation is funding projects in your current year's budget. So if we decrease the depreciation, we're cutting projects that are renewal and replacement of your system. So
So
the
that,
only caveat is if we come
That's where
back
the
with a
number
decrease,
comes.
we're gonna come
Right.
back with here are the things that have been cut.
That's
because
why
of
I
that.
say we definitely want to see it and see what that looks like. before
I
we
think there's some wiggle room in there though, and that's what I'd like.
Before
To,
we just start trimming fat, let's just see what it does.
Well, I mean, are we using 50% of depreciation, 60%?
I don't have the number off the top of my head. Part of it is a lot of our long-term plans. You know, you look at our CIP and we have $125 million of capital improvements in the next 5 years are based off the fact that we're currently funding 100% depreciation. So I would need to go back and rerun the numbers and see what can be moved and changed. There is, to the manager's point, we could definitely decrease from the 90%. 50% is getting
Well, you know, you got to go for the gusto when you're sitting here.
absolutely. Shoot for the moon, land amongst the stars, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
don't forget to ask for public comment.
Oh, any public comment?
We got public here.
Hey, public.
All right. Any comment up there?
Taking it all in.
All right. I think this meeting is adjourned.
There you go. Put that big old hand on that thing. Bam, bam. Barely hits it. Yeah.
Hey, so I run a meeting for a